So diplomacy has definitely shifted gears, both open diplomacy and a lot of diplomacy behind the scenes. Whether they will succeed or not depends really on what President Trump decides to do.
Let's hear now from Nomi Yaacov, who's an award-winning international peace negotiator and fellow at the Geneva Centre for Security Policy. Nomi, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Kathy.
We've been hearing there from Antonio Guterres, amongst other, Turkey's president, talking about we're heading for the point of no return. Really a feeling of great sort of crisis. What are the prospects for a diplomatic breakthrough at this point, do you think?
Well, I think it all boils down to what US President Donald Trump decides to do, and the pressure is mounting on him from Pakistan, from Russia, and principally from Qatar and the UAE and Saudi Arabia and Oman. So the Gulf states, of course, will be the first ones to take a hit if he joins in, because they have the US has bases there. As you know, there's also a meeting happening just now between the foreign ministers of the UK, France and Germany, with the Iranian foreign minister in Geneva. They started about an hour ago. So diplomacy has definitely shifted gears, both open diplomacy and a lot of diplomacy behind the scenes. Whether they will succeed or not depends really on what President Trump decides to do, because by postponing his decision by 2 weeks, it means that Israel will try to do as much damage as they can to Iran's nuclear program, and not only Iran's nuclear program. They targeted a senior scientist. They've already targeted, by targeted I mean killed, a very large number, significant number of scientists, and now they're talking about taking out personalities from the regime. So they're quite openly working towards regime change. So we're in a different ballpark, and it's very, very, very dangerous.
Well, yes, and to highlight that, I mean, Russia has just put out this statement saying that the targeting of Iran's peaceful civilian nuclear facilities is, in a quote, liable to plunge us into a hitherto unseen nuclear catastrophe. So, you know, the stakes have risen, haven't they?
Absolutely. I mean, as we're speaking, there is a Security Council meeting going on, and I was listening very attentively to Rafael Grossi, the head of the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy, giving a very, very stark warning, saying if, Bashir will be attacked. He was just outlining the specific nuclear sites in Iran that could cause, if attacked, could cause radiation well beyond the boundaries of Iran, meaning spill over to other states. And so that there could not be a louder and clearer warning than his warning. And the call for a diplomatic solution is equally loud and clear. And as I said, I think the fact that the current Iranian foreign minister is actually in Geneva, stating very towards the outside world that he's only come to listen to the Europeans and that he's definitely not negotiating under fire. Clearly, he will take back with him what is potentially on offer.
And I'll come back to that in just a second, but just to refer to what you were saying about the risk of nuclear fallout if Iran is attacked, because that's been played down up to date, hasn't it, by the West, the suggestion that, that you could actually strike with these bunker buster bombs and not have a great sort of escape of radiation. That seems to be challenged by what you've just said.
Well, he's made it very clear that so far to date, we're on day 8 now, there has been no radiation and no materials of no dangerous spillover has occurred. So what he did is he outlined it again loud and clear. What are the sites that, quote unquote, can be attacked from the point of view of radiation, and which sites should not be attacked. He also volunteered to go to Iran promptly in order to carry out his duties under the mandate of the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy. And he said they have set up on day 1, so that's last Friday, on the 13th of this month of June, they set up a 24-hour emergency center. So they're doing their job, and he is, extremely professional and has been working in this position for many years. So he really has said, I'm basically invited himself to say, I'm coming, I can help you, let's get this sorted.
That's really interesting. Let's go back to those talks then in Geneva that you were talking about. What are the possible areas of compromise? How rigid are the red lines on both sides?
Well, Iran have a different strategy of negotiation to the West. But that said, the P3, you had a P5+3, you had the three countries that are there. Again, the UK, France, and Germany were part of the team that originally, the countries were, not these specific individuals, were part of the team that negotiated the original 2015 nuclear agreement called the Joint Action Plan, the JCPOA, the one that, just to remind the audience, that US President Donald Trump in his first term withdrew from in May 2018. And that is why it is because of his withdrawal that we are in the mess that we're in now, because as soon as he withdrew, Iran started enriching at a much higher rate. So that, the 60% sort of enrichment in certain areas in certain plants, is what has been called suspicious, given that it goes way beyond what is necessary for a nuclear civilian program.
Although that deal would have been coming to an end roughly now anyway, wouldn't it? Or would have already ended, perhaps?
Kathy, this is diplomacy. It would have been renegotiated. I mean,
okay.
this is deal one. You get to when you negotiate, you get to the best deal you can at a given time, and then you have to sort of call. This deal was negotiated after many, many months. So you sort of, when you reach a certain point, you say, okay, we can agree to this. This is the best deal we can do for now. Let's see what happens. Let's hold the program, basically, have access to the sites, monitor what is going on, and then reassess, as you say, about now on as to how to proceed. The problem with withdrawing, and also the problem now, is that Iran may decide to go clandestine. They're already saying they may leave the NPT. That's the non-proliferation treaty. And if they do that, then there's no access at all and no supervision. So one has to be very cautious. And remember, agreements are never perfect.
Right. So if you were in the room, what tactic would you be using to draw these two very divided sides together?
You mean Israel and Iran?
Well, I mean, no, I'm talking more about what's going on in Geneva. What would you be putting on the table? What would you be advising Europe's foreign ministers to do right now?
To listen to the Iranians and to see what they're really willing to do. There's always one thing that they're saying in public and one thing that they're saying in private, and to see what their real red lines are, and try and work out an agreement as soon as possible. Because what they will be doing is they will be feeding in directly to the White House, to Donald Trump. That's, they're not going to reach an agreement with them. They are just really sounding out. It's a sounding board today, is what I would say has happened.
And what are the
Iranians have come to listen, and the Europeans have come potentially with some offers, but they really need to try to build trust at a place where there's no trust. There's certainly no trust between Iran and the US after what has happened. So the Europeans are sort of stepping in, as are the Gulf states, and they're going to try to work out what may be feasible and what not, because Israel's made it very clear that they're going to continue to attack, and especially now that they're sort of talking about attacking over a period of 2 weeks. That's a very long time, and Iran will continue to retaliate as long as Israel attacks. And Iran is undoubtedly got many more missiles, hidden missiles in stocks. We've seen today. Today has been an absolutely lethal attack. And now the Israelis are saying that they won't allow foreign journalists to come in unless they have a special visa and a special permission. And now they've censored also civilian sites. Up to now, journalists were not allowed to film in military sites. But now, as of today, as of a few hours ago, they're saying journalists are going to need special clearance in order to be able to cover the conflict, A, and B, they are not going to be able to film from civilian targets. So that just goes to show you what the extent of damage, what the extent of the real damage is.
Just very briefly, if you would, your gut feel about whether a strike on Iran can be avoided, whether this can be pulled back from the brink.
No, I don't think it can be avoided today, but I think you can avoid a 2-week stretch, and what we're looking for is to try to end it as soon as possible. So yes, it can potentially be avoided, but a lot needs to happen, and the diplomacy needs to succeed, and I don't think we can. Certainly, nobody's expecting the 3 foreign ministers to come out of Geneva with an agreement. I don't
waving a piece of white paper.
Absolutely, no. I don't think that is at all on the table. As I said, it's a sounding board. It's step one, and we are in a process. So I don't think anyone is expecting this to end promptly.
Nomi Yaacov, thank you very much for joining us.